Hello, and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the 6th grade concept of wholes, parts, and percents. This is standard 6.5b in the great state of Texas, and we are using item number 11 of the 2024 released STAAR test. This is a new item type called drag and drop, and if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and take a moment to pause the video, work this problem out on your own, unpause it, and we will look at our answers together. You'll notice that if you use a number, you can't use it twice. That's important because sometimes drag and drops you can use more than once. But if I were to move just one of those randomly into that and then try to move on, it is going to give me a warning signal because I haven't completed the problem. So it's a 2-point problem, one for each blank. Let's go ahead and figure out how to get full credit on this problem. So Kara is going to own here 35 books. Of these 35 books, we've got these two percentages that we need to deal with, right? 20% have fewer than 100, 80% have 100 or more. So that's all we know. So let's see if we can draw a part whole, just kind of show this relationship here, right? So if we've got 35 books, that's my total. Then I've got these two parts, right? The strip diagram here. 20% and 80%, right? You put those together, that's 100%. So we've accounted for all of them. So I'm going to put it like right about there. That's 80% is going to be 100 plus. And then I'll do 20% is less than 100. All right, so now what we need to do, though, is we need to turn those percentages into actual numbers, right? So 80% of the 35 is going to have 100 or more. 20% of the 35 is going to have less than a 100. Well, hopefully we can eliminate this one. You can't have 80 books if 35 is your total. So we've already eliminated one answer, so that's good. So there's a few different ways that we can do this, right? One way that we could do this, and they're all going to get you the right answer, is let's look at the percentages, okay? So let's look at 80%. Let's transform that into a decimal, right? So we know that the percents are out of 100, so you can either just move the decimal place over twice, or you can think, well, 80% is 80 hundredths. Either way, you're going to get 80 hundredths, right, if you move the decimal over twice. We could just call that 0.8. Well, when I have 80% of 35, I can multiply that, as long as it's not in that percent form. It needs to be in a decimal or fractional form. Decimal form is usually easiest. So now I could do 35 times 0.8. We're going to ignore the decimal for now, just pretend it's 35 times 8. We don't need this 0 because any zeros after a decimal are just kind of extra. So 8 times 5 is 40. And then 8 times 3 is 24. Add the 4, 28. Now, let's look at the decimal. I've got one digit behind the decimal in my factors, so I need one digit behind the decimal in my product, so it's 28. So that looks like that's 28. I could do the same thing with 35 and 0.2, because that is going to be the 20%, right? The 20% is going to transform into 0.2 or 0.20. And that's going to be 10, that's 6, that's 7, one digit behind the decimal, one digit behind the decimal. You could have multiplied that, or you could have just taken your 35, take away 28, the remaining has to be 7, seeing as how the 80 and the 20 make up the entire thing. Now, another way we could have done this is we could have said 80% is 80 out of 100, right? Equivalent fraction could be 8 tenths. That even goes smaller into 4 fifths, okay? So we could have multiplied 4 fifths times 35, which means you just multiply straight across, and that's going to be 140 fifths. Now, you still have to divide to make that a number, but if you get 140 fifths, right, that's going to be 10. There you go. There's your 28. So you could have done it both ways, but we're going to have fewer than 100 pages is 20%, so that's going to be my 7. And then greater is going to be 28.